Give the gift of a delicious burger from Bulldog Burger, a soup and sandwich from Sweet Pepper's Deli, appetizers and cocktails from The Grill, or even a wood-fired steak from Harvey's. Choice is the perfect gift. An all-in-one gift card from Eat With Us.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 10.
Well, good evening and welcome to Mississippi Live Weather at 10. We have a lot to talk about in this broadcast as that cold front continues blowing through North Mississippi. I keep using that word on purpose because it's been very breezy and gusty, and that's still the number one threat as that cold front continues to move on through. So let's hop right into the broadcast and get you updated as you get ready for your overnight period ahead. But that cold front almost through Mississippi, so it is very fast, just blowing through North Mississippi, continuing to push on through. We're seeing that continue to move on out of our area as we get closer and closer towards midnight. We'll be tracking that out as we continue into the evening ahead, but also breezy conditions will continue into tomorrow. So not just a tonight thing, we're going to see that breezy, windy conditions continue for your Monday, and that's what's going to make us feel a lot cooler than what those temperatures are reading outdoors. But also these cold conditions, it's going to stay. It's not just for tomorrow. We don't have to soak it all up tomorrow and even into Tuesday. For the rest of the week, we're finally seeing those below average and pretty much seasonable conditions make their return. It's just starting tonight, and we get to enjoy them as we wrap up 2025 and get ready for the 2026 year ahead. But also wanted to point this out too, because the number one threat that we kept mentioning with this cold front is the wind, and that continues to kind of be responsible for some power outages. And they did update it. Our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard, just sent me a post out in the field, and he was letting me know that Oxford was having a power outage. He sent me this post. It said, "We are currently having an electric outage affecting 185 customers along West Jackson Avenue. Due to the storm blowing through town, crews are on the way to investigate and will restore power ASAP." So most of them know where these are occurring. They're going out there as we speak to try to get y'all back online. But just showing that these windy conditions can knock some trees onto power lines or even knock those power lines over. So even though it's not a high impactful cold front, we got to take all of these very seriously, no matter the severity of them, due to them causing power outages like this. But wanted to give you the very latest as we continue into the overnight period ahead. But let's take a look at the first 12 as we get ready for that overnight period. Those rain chances continuing to move on through North Mississippi as that cold front continues moving on out. Temperatures around 56 degrees by 11 o'clock, and we're going to cool off, see mid 40s around 2 o'clock, and then pretty much upper 30s by 5, waking up in the low 30s tomorrow morning and seeing a sunny and mostly clear day ahead. So we'll definitely be beautiful tomorrow. Just got to get through these breezy, gusty, and rainy conditions tonight before we can soak that all up tomorrow and enjoy the day ahead. But let's take a live look at our Mississippi Live Weather Radar. Just like I said earlier, we're going to have a lot more to talk about and look at here during the 10 o'clock broadcast. Our most impactful showers, not even to say storms. Take a look at the total strikes. Throughout all of this area, there's not a single lightning strike happening, so it's not very energetic, just more heavy downpours. You can see it kind of leaving Union County, going into Lee, and then I zoomed in too far to kind of know my bearings. There we go. But moving on through North Mississippi towards Lee and kind of closer towards Saltillo, continuing to move on out. We can kind of put this on a loop. Let's take a look. Actually, let me zoom this out just to kind of show y'all how fast this line is moving. Let's take a look and just show it for the last hour. That's how far it's traveling within the past hour. So, I mean, even by the time we reach 11 o'clock, it's pretty much practically in Alabama. So, like I mentioned earlier, you're going to notice a heavy downpour occurring over your house, and then it's almost gone within the next 15 to 20 minutes as it continues moving on out. But still, very breezy and windy conditions as well as we continue into the evening ahead. But what's responsible for this, as if we already don't know, it's that cold front moving through North Mississippi, bringing those cooler temperatures and breezy conditions. You can definitely tell a lot more impactful up north, especially into some parts of Tennessee, but majority Kentucky and into Ohio, kind of seeing some of those severe thunderstorm warnings get issued. Have had a few tornado warnings, thankfully not extended super far down south, especially in Mississippi and Tennessee, but wanted to keep y'all updated, especially with it being still December. Lots of friends and family traveling to make sure they are still updated as well, especially if you have people or loved ones up in that area. But that cold front continuing to push on that weather all the way up north, affecting everyone. But those wind speeds right now, you can definitely tell a little bit more impactful as compared to the 6 o'clock broadcast. Mid-20s, 24 out there in Senatobia, 20 in Southaven, 14 in Tunica. As that continues moving on through North Mississippi, starting to see some windier conditions further out west as well. But let's take a look at those gusts as well. A lot more significant. This is kind of what's responsible for those power outages, as some trees maybe fall on an unlucky power line as it goes throughout the rest of the overnight period. 34 out there in Senatobia, 35 in Water Valley. I think 40 is the highest right now out there in Clarksdale. So still very breezy, very windy as you go about the overnight hours. So make sure to continue taking this serious, even though it's December, not really a severe weather season, but still can be impactful throughout the nighttime hours as well. But let's take a look at Futurecast to kind of track out the rest of this and how it's already almost done. So just got to blow through just the next hour or two, and then we're about done, especially moving on through around 12 o'clock and on. We're not really tracking much. That line already in Alabama, you can still see those strong winds kind of moving along the line. But for us here in North Mississippi, we're starting to see that northwesterly wind start moving on through North Mississippi, bringing those cooler temperatures and kind of just some last minute moisture and rain showers move through the area. So still not impactful. Most of the heavier showers already moving on through. But then we're going to start to see drier conditions as we get ready for those AM hours ahead. And we're going to wake up to dry and pretty much mostly clear conditions by the time we start our day. And that wind continuing to kind of just push down that cloud cover, allowing us to enjoy sunny skies above as we go about our Monday. So just got to get through these rain showers today, and then that forecast is spectacular as we get ready for the holiday week ahead. But the next 24 shows us starting off with temperatures around 34 degrees by 6 o'clock, working our way up towards the upper 30s by lunchtime around 12, still seeing mostly clear skies all day long, topping out in the low 40s for some, but definitely going to feel a lot cooler than what those temperatures are reading outdoors. And then by the time we reach that 10 o'clock hour, we're going to be talking about upper to mid 20s for those current conditions. So definitely some cool and below average times ahead, but with how above average we've been, I know we have been wishing for this to finally make its way to North Mississippi. So I know we are all excited for it. But I'm gonna give you an in-depth look on those rain chances as they continue moving on through North Mississippi and what your Monday and into your Tuesday looks like as we get ready for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. All of that's coming up after this break.
The clock is ticking on Room to Room's year-end clearance sale. For 5 days only, get half off furniture, mattresses, and Christmas decor, plus 20% off accessories. 5 days with 60-month special financing. And we pay the sales tax now at Room to Room.
As a bankruptcy firm, Mitchell, Cunningham & Bowling realizes many people are worried about their finances. We're here to guide you through the next steps to restart your life with easy video appointments. New clients don't have to leave home to get information about becoming debt-free. Also, convenient in-office appointments are available at the low cost of $340 upfront for a Chapter 13. You can be on your way to being debt-free. Contact Mitchell, Cunningham & Bowling today or visit our website at mcdebtfree.com. We are here to help you.
Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's meteorologist Caleb Edelblut.
Well, thanks for sticking here with us at Mississippi Live Weather at 10. Before I continue with this broadcast, I was reading through the comments just to see what you guys were talking about and wanted to highlight a few of these because we're talking about all this weather occurring across North Mississippi, but y'all are out there experiencing it right now and pretty much being our eyes and ears out there. I got some comments saying there's power outage in Ripley, Mississippi, light is gone in Pontotoc, and then lights out in Randolph, which is also in Pontotoc County. So y'all definitely let me know that Pontotoc County still has some power outages, but pretty windy. Wind is horrible out there in Blackland. So yeah, definitely windy conditions. And I think there were people, if I continue scrolling down, asking about Alabama. The line is making its way towards Alabama. And people were asking if it's going to be bad. In my opinion, I wouldn't say bad's the right word. It's still just very windy as it goes throughout the southeast in general. It looks a little bit less intense by the time it makes it to Alabama. So still want to take it serious because an unlucky gust could take out a tree into a power line and cause those power outages, but we're not tracking anything super severe as it continues. There's a Stranger Things reference. That's awesome. But yeah, just wanted to keep up with those comments, and I'll continue looking at that before we wrap up this broadcast as well, because we appreciate all that y'all send in. But those current conditions right here in Tupelo, 69 degrees, feels like 73, so still waiting for that cold front to kick in here in Lee County and Tupelo, but it's about to cross over, and I guarantee I'm going to hear that rain and wind in the next few minutes by the time I'm wrapping up the broadcast. I thought it just dropped on us. There we go. But let's continue into the broadcast, those temperatures. I wanted to show you all this because I teased it during the 6 o'clock of showing that we're going to see somewhat of a difference by the time we reach 10. You can kind of tell where that cold front has been and where it's going as we continue into the overnight period as well. South Haven and Tunica are already experiencing those cooler temperatures, and y'all will continue dropping overnight. 47 in South Haven, 49 Tunica, 50 in Senatobia. You can kind of see almost that faint line as that cold temperatures continue moving on through. Still upper 70s for some of us, 73 out there in Bruce, 71 Houston. I know y'all won't be feeling that much longer as that front continues moving on through. But let's take a look at that temperature change. That cold front definitely starting to cool us off. I mean, talking about almost 20 degrees out there in South Haven, minus 18 South Haven, minus 17 Tunica, and minus 12 out there in Senatobia. Don't worry, the rest of us will start to see that in just a little bit. Just gotta let that cold front continue moving on through. But taking a look at the region as a whole, I couldn't even imagine out there in Oklahoma City, minus 43. Not the current conditions, they just dropped 43 degrees. So definitely more impactful the further northwest you go, but it's also had more time to kind of linger and bring in that cooler air. So we're going to start to see that move into North Mississippi as well, but kind of giving y'all a look at to what's going on as we continue into the overnight air time as well. But Futurecast still showing that line of showers moving on through, but notice these bright reds and stuff. Normally we relate that to storms, especially when it's related to a cold front. These are primarily just heavy downpours. This is not an energetic system. It's just kind of showing some heavier rain and heavy wind gusts. That's going to continue blowing on through North Mississippi. Even by 11 o'clock, we can still see that line move through North Mississippi and heading towards Alabama for those that were asking in the comments, but not as pronounced as we just saw during the 10 o'clock. So starting to weaken just a little bit, but still impactful with those heavy wind gusts moving towards the Alabama state line. Even there, by the time it reaches Hartsville, you kind of see another kind of well-defined, more intense showers occurring, but still not really stormy as we get ready for the midnight and AM time frame. But here in North Mississippi, by the time that line leaves, we're still just kind of seeing some last-minute moisture. These are just rain showers moving across North Mississippi, trying to give us some amounts of rainfall. Again, not going to be really significant to help us out any, but that stress-free rain that we can listen and hit the roofs as we continue into the overnight period. Not going to have to worry about that at all. We can go to sleep sound and safe and not have to stress out about it. But by 6 o'clock, seeing those clear conditions and dry conditions return here to North Mississippi. But those low temperatures tonight definitely going to be a lot chillier than last night. We were talking about low 60s. We're talking about low 30s across North Mississippi. 32 in Tupelo, 30 Boonville, 29 Holly Springs, 32 Clarksdale, and 36 down there in Greenville. So definitely a difference between yesterday and tonight, and that's due to that cold front continuing to give us those benefits as it moves across our area. But coming back to Futurecast, by 8 o'clock tomorrow, we can kind of see a partly cloudy start to the day. With those breezy conditions, that cloud cover not going to stick around for long. We're talking about dry conditions all day, but also cooler conditions. By lunchtime, we're starting to see that. Those breezy conditions continuing to blow on through North Mississippi as you continue throughout your Monday. And then we're still not tracking out anything. That cloud cover moves on out, allowing us to enjoy sunny and mostly clear skies above us. And that's going to continue into the evening hours and eventually overnight hours as well. But those high temperatures, low 40s all across North Mississippi, 41 in Hamilton, Amory, and Houston, 39 New Albany, Oxford, Senatobia, 40 Clarksdale and Cleveland, 43 Greenville, Belzona, and Greenwood. Now here's the real story. We feel a lot cooler, but also those feels like values. We're going to feel even cooler than what we're going to experience tomorrow. That's due to that breezy conditions still persisting into your Monday. So all those Christmas gifts you got with the layers and that Christmas sweater weather, it's finally here in North Mississippi. It took a few days after Christmas, but finally able to bring them all out of the closet and start to show them off to everybody as we get ready for the New Year's holiday ahead. But perfect day to walk the dog outside. I'm going to try to see if I can do that before I head back up here for work tomorrow. You can start off bright and early in the morning if you're an early bird, 33 degrees with those mostly clear conditions, especially the further north you go. Then warming on up, seeing upper 30s by lunchtime. Then we're talking about low 40s for your highs later on in the afternoon. So a beautiful day to do pretty much anything outdoors as long as you are A-okay with those cooler temperatures. But coming back to Futurecast, still talking about those clear conditions on Monday. This is at 6 o'clock, and let's track out the overnight period going into your Tuesday. Not much to track out. Pausing it at midnight just to kind of keep giving some breaths and let you know what's happening, but I could let this play on and you would have no idea it's moving. Just constant wind blowing into North Mississippi, clear conditions, dry conditions. We just went through all of Tuesday, and there's some cloud cover, very wispy and thin in nature, and now we're at Wednesday at 1 o'clock. So not many reasons to pause throughout that forecast. We're not tracking anything throughout your Tuesday either. Going to be a sunnier day with less clouds in the sky. So a beautiful day ahead. But those high temperatures still sticking around the low 40s across North Mississippi. Still some upper 30s, 38 in Holly Springs, Senatobia, and Tunica, 39 Clarksdale and Cleveland. Then we're talking about low 40s, 41 in Bruce, Tupelo, Amory, 42, Houston, Eupora, and Starkville. Those feels like values still not as significant as probably tomorrow, just due to that wind dying off just a little bit for your Tuesday, but still going to be pretty breezy as you go about your day. So make sure to keep those layers on. We are finally seeing those seasonable conditions return here to North Mississippi. But that 7-day forecast shows us waking up and seeing those lows pretty much around freezing. 33 degrees tomorrow morning, only warming up towards the low 40s across North Mississippi. And we're sticking around the low 40s Tuesday with those sunny skies above, and seeing low 50s Wednesday, and then pretty much just settling out in the mid 50s Thursday and Friday as we wrap up the holiday week and getting ready for the weekend. Still right now a dry weekend in your forecast, so beautiful seasonable conditions have finally made their way back. But before we wrap this up, I'm going to switch it back to radar just to give y'all the most updated look. If I can get my mouse to come over, and then I'll read y'all's comments to make sure. Well, there we go. I mean, you can also already see that it's died off significantly from where we started the broadcast. Can't really see those dark reds, oranges, or yellows. I mean, the most significant is already blown through Saltillo, which, keep in mind, when we started this broadcast, it was pretty much leaving Union County. It's now pretty much already crossed Lee and heading out closer towards Alabama state line. So definitely a fast cold front moving through, very weak, and just a small, tiny cold front line of showers moving on through. And I keep saying line of showers because these aren't energetic at all. I'm covering it up right now. Total strikes 0, should have gone the other way. Not really energetic at all. So just wanted to give you all the latest look on that. But yeah, working its way towards Alabama. Let's check the comments real quick. All right. I think, oh, my scroller's not working. There we go. Power out. Okay. Yes, but most of them know, and a lot of y'all's organizations have posted that they are on it, and I've noticed where they are. So if it is raining and pouring at your house, it won't last for long due to just how fast that cold front is moving on through. And of course, those breezy conditions will last a little bit longer into your Monday and Tuesday, but definitely not as significant as those wind gusts are tonight. So we're pretty much good. Just those rain changes continuing to move on out. Just going to be a little breezy. Could hear the wind howling outside, but that is about it. Not expecting anything too severe tonight, and very excited to see that, especially not seeing many of those storm reports on the radar either. So, of course, if you want to make sure to continue to stay updated with us, if anything changes, we have our app here, the QR code for both iOS and Android. We appreciate all the support you have given us, and also the feedback, because we want to make sure what's working and what's not. We'll keep you updated throughout times like this, and even when we get closer towards severe weather season as well. But of course, we'll be back towards our weekday schedule tomorrow at 6:30, 7, and 7:30 as our morning meteorologist Maggie McCauley wakes up bright and early to talk about those dry and cold conditions as you start off your day. So definitely about time for us to see those below average conditions return. And of course, we'll have our evening shows back towards the 3 broadcast schedule at 5, 6, and 10 tomorrow evening. But I appreciate y'all all tuning in. I'm glad to see that everybody is doing okay and we're having minimal power outages, and that everybody is already on top of it and getting that stuff back online. But of course, we'll make sure to continue looking at this and tracking it out, and we'll see y'all back here in the Room to Room Weather Center tomorrow. Y'all have a good one.
Some people judge a book by its cover, and if you're not what people are looking for, you're kind of like a reject.
School, it feels like everyone's staring at me and I'm just kind of not really a person.
It just feels hard today. Nobody was listening to me.
Try to understand me more, and I'll try to do the same.
Listening is a form of love. Find ways to support your kids at sounditouttogether.org.
mic be ready real quick so I can hear you.
Yeah, give me a second, get my stuff on. But,
Okay, yeah.
The BAM is back hot again on there. And I'll get my stuff up there in a second.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye. Okay, so sorry about that. Wanted to get this stuff set up back here. Wanted to go back live to continue tracking out this cold front as it continues moving on through North Mississippi. Still not tracking anything as severe, especially by the time we started this 10 o'clock. So noticing not really seeing those bright red or oranges. And when we do, not going to be that energetic either. Just kind of more heavy downpours and just gusty conditions moving on through North Mississippi. Not really an energetic or stormy setup moving through North Mississippi, but as you can tell, also not as intense. I want to see if I can try to see if I put this in play for the past 3 hours as we continue tracking it out. You can definitely tell it was a little bit more intense back earlier around the 8 to 9 o'clock time frame, but already starting to die on out as we get closer towards 11 and moving on through North Mississippi. Thankfully, haven't seen too many reports as of right now, but wanted to pull up that power outage map again, which we will soon to get the latest updated look. But
Yeah,
especially
and ultimately, I think that's kind of the issue on this. There's just some power outages. There's nothing that's too terribly bad going on, but I did figure that we probably ought to like address at least some of the power outage issues. And I don't know if you can pull it up on the computer there in front. If you can pull up that picture that Gabe sent a moment ago from the Oxford Police Department.
I'm gonna have to work on it.
Okay, yeah, I'll get that up. I'll pop myself up here for just a second. Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut. Okay, first and foremost, there's no severe thunderstorm watches, warnings, anything like that. There's nothing along those lines. This is just kind of a strong front with what we call strong pressure gradient winds that are pushing into and through the area, and we appreciate some of your reports. Part of the reason we're doing a little extended coverage here is just because we know we've had at least a number of those reports of power outages around the area, including South Pontotoc. We're showing some of those as well. So look at the power outage percentages there again. Those numbers continue to kind of work eastward as this line works eastward as well. Still now showing Tippah County there with kind of the greatest amount at about 1,600 there for up around Corinth and about 200 for the Oxford area. But, it tends to be the situation that we end up getting different amounts of power outages than what we show up on here, which is what Caleb's working on among other things. I can see you there on the 2-box, Caleb. So once you get that ready on that monitor there, you just let me know and we can go ahead and pop that up behind you there, because I think we might be ready for that as well, because I wanted to at least try to show that picture there. So we've got that behind Caleb. Let's bring it back here into the 2-box. Unfortunately, Caleb, I think it's going to probably put your name key as Gabe Maynor unless I can find the right one here, so I apologize for that.
No, you're good.
Let's see. One of these says Caleb. If I can find it. Gabe, Matt, Caleb. There we go. Okay, let's take a look at what you got.
Yes, no, this was the post that our meteorologist Gabe Maynor sent in right before we went live. This was the Oxford, Mississippi Police Department that posted it, talking about the power outage and kind of seeing that tree knock over a power line, I believe, fell on it just with how windy and gusty these conditions are. But currently a power outage in some parts of Oxford due to the wind. And then they also posted a screenshot of that power company posting, "We currently have an electric outage affecting 185 customers along West Jackson Avenue due to the storm blowing through town. Crews are on the way to investigate and will restore power ASAP." So definitely good news to see that they're already on top of it, especially since you guys keep reporting these power outages to let them know where they need to go to get them back online. But wanted to share that because he sent that earlier on today or during the 10 o'clock broadcast. So wanted to broadcast that as well so you guys could see the post. But I tried to see if we had any pictures to show as well. But good thing is we haven't really gotten any, so shouldn't be too active going on. But that's what Gabe sent in just a few minutes ago.
Okay, that's our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut. If you can, look at the poweroutage.us map. I want to see the specific Entergy map on that here in a second. We'll come back to you here in a moment with that. Okay. Just kind of looking at that. So I bring it back here to our mobile room weather center. Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon, a little extended coverage. Nothing that's too terribly bad. But one of the things Asia mentioning on Facebook there, wind is a little wild in South Pontotoc right now, and power is going out, on and off. So I figured we'd just go on a little bit longer talking about that here for a minute. Apologize that I'm in behind the scenes mode right now. We were doing some kind of Christmas stuff here behind the scenes at the Lawpon house. And so just kind of checking through our chat with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. Give me a second here. And I'll get that chat pulled up on there. Not seeing a whole lot in that at this point, but we have had at least some of those reports. They did have that report earlier on from, hold on, let's see if I can get this to go full screen. Okay, Northeast Mississippi, Power Cooperative there out of the Oxford area. Pretty decent number showing up on their map here. I'll go ahead and pop that up here for a moment. That should be this one. Let's see if it'll work. Yeah. So as you can see, quite a few of those power outages showing up there, especially on kind of the northeast side. I'm guessing some of the yellows there, not exactly showing that things are in great shape as far as that's concerned, but so quite a decent number of power outages kind of showing up in and around the area. Caleb is looking at that map with Entergy behind the scenes as well, Caleb, and it does look like, again, a number of kind of shown up on there. Or is that fair statement on what you're looking at?
Yeah, I'd say Tippah County probably has the most right now. I was just trying to pull that one up. I was able to pull up the Entergy just for a little bit to cover some of the power outages. It kind of highlights the certain streets that are experiencing them. The good news is it's not overwhelming at this time frame. So kind of showing just off of Highway 310 out here, just outside of Oxford, I believe. I got to get my bearings again. There we go. Just out of Sardis, you can kind of see where some power outages are. That red line kind of strip along Highway 310. Also down here on 315, kind of another strip of just those power outages. But behind the scenes here in just a second, I'll also be able to pull up that Tippah County power outages as well, because I think that's probably the most substantial one we've had so far, at least based off of that map. But kind of just broadcasting, looking at a few of the outages. Here's kind of another maybe neighborhood that got out. That blue triangle shows that 250 or more are out of power, and you can definitely tell kind of a neighborhood or area, maybe a transformer or tree fell on the power line. So definitely good to know that they can see where it's occurring and are getting on there. It looks like it's Wilborn Road and, well, these are sideways. Swinia Lakes Drive, Old Dan Road, Long Street. So they're definitely on top of it, and I'll get those Tippah Power County maps up as well.
Okay. Our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut, kind of looking at that. I was able to get the I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, harder numbers there from the folks at Northeast Mississippi Electric Power Cooperative. Again, appreciate all of our power cooperatives for what they do. See a lot of single outages. When that's the case, it sometimes takes them a little longer to be able to come out there and fix those. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lomp on 10:30 p.m. No severe thunderstorm warnings, no tornadoes, nothing like that. This is a strong cold front coming in that's blasting all the cooler temperatures, all the humid air, all the warmer temperatures we had, and sliding on in with obviously the much colder air behind that. And that has caused, again, some power outages around our region because of that. Let's see if we can pull up on our typical perspective here on our Mississippi Live weather radar and our power outage map. You can see that. Let's see if we can pull up the wind gusts on that as well. This does a good job, I think, of illustrating that on a fairly widespread scale, where you see kind of these oranges there. Those are wind gusts in excess of 30 miles per hour kind of sliding through the area. I'll go ahead and put this into a loop over the last 3 hours here. And again, this is kind of the issue, is this kind of slides through, again, a big kind of wall of wind causing these power outages. Now, the thing to note, it's not just right at the front. We continue to have gusty winds behind this, so we do expect it to stay pretty windy into the overnight hours as well. So the takeaway on that should be that more strong wind gusts, I think, are possible overnight. Current sustained wind speeds, there we are. For whatever reason, I wasn't wanting to populate in there. So you can see fairly widespread wind gusts in that 30, 35 mile per hour range. So again, this is not severe, though it is stronger back there in the Arkansas. I have some folks up almost 50 miles per hour for some of those wind gusts at this time. So Caleb, that is enough that, again, it is kind of kicking out some of these power outages. And I can see on that map there, certainly it's a concentration for locations up in Alcorn County, right?
Yes, no, this is in Alcorn County, just south of Corinth. You can see definitely 628 people affected by this power outage. And I was able to pull up the Tippah Electrical Power Association as well, kind of highlighting the areas, not giving specifics. I'll even move this over just a little bit so y'all can kind of see what I'm looking at. Definitely experiencing that down in Ripley, showing at least 500 or more customers out of power. There's also kind of another kind of single power outage out here. Let's see if we can zoom in just a little bit. Definitely just south of Ashland, kind of off of Highway 4E. And then there was also another kind of blob, 2 to 10, but it's all significant to us here in North Mississippi, across the state line into Tennessee as well, just off of Highway 12, I believe, or 125. Yep. So definitely some power outages, and you can definitely tell that most of them occurring here in Tippah is pretty much outside of Ripley. So that is something that we're continuing to monitor. And then I pulled up that Alcorn County as well, seeing kind of another area definitely getting affected with that 628 people just south of Corinth. So we're making sure to monitor that behind the scenes and pull up any more that we have.
Absolutely. That's our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut. Continue to look into the storm chaser. Do you have the storm chaser chat up there?
I would have to pull it up. I think Gabe may have had the tab open, so I'll have to look for it.
Okay, I'll bring it on in here for a second. I'll look for you to wave me in when you have that here. The power outages obviously continue to, it's pretty obvious where this front has moved through. That's where obviously this line is kind of kicked through some of those spots there. But looking at the yellow dots, that's where we've had at least storm reports in some cases of some significance out there. The one you can see south of Oxford there, power lines down associated with the frontal passage, about 9:24, the official time on that one. 9:26, trees blocking the road there between Abbeville and Burt, north of Mississippi 30 and east of Mississippi Highway 7. We'll come in close for kind of a more exact road. Looks like Lee Creek Road, where that is located. And then one other wind damage report there on Highway 30 as of about an hour ago there. And so that likely causing, again, some slowdowns as far as travel is concerned because of some of these reports. So not shocked at all to have a few of those. We also have a couple up here in up toward DeSoto County, looking up here toward that shows power lines along Swinia Road, about 8:11 when that one occurred there. And then another one back up here about 8:11 or so there on Tulane Road up in DeSoto County. So we do expect there's probably some other examples. We're looking kind of through the chat as I'm kind of watching that here, what you all are saying behind the scenes on that. Yeah, just rain and wind didn't last a whole long time there. So that's largely, I think, the case. I'm going to kind of hold on. So that's power off there in Pontotoc in some spots. No shock. Wind is wild in Ripley. Power off in 345 in Pontotoc. Yeah, so obviously some spots out there where things are fairly windy. Wicked wind in East Tupelo there. Tree down on our driveway on Beach Springs Road. Oh no, that's not good. That's quite literally my neighbor. I know which tree I'm concerned that might be. That's not a good sign. Well, Caleb, I'm going to send it to you for a second. I'm going to go outside and check out what that deal was. So I'm going to send it back to you, let you kind of check out some of those other reports there. Obviously, as you can see on the Stream Deck in front, you can change that back and forth if you need to go back over to links for a second. But I'm quite literally going to figure out where that tree's down.
All right.
So
that sounds good.
Give me just a minute. I'll be back in a few.
Sounds good. Yeah, I just wanted to pull up. This was a post that was sent in the Storm Chasers group, kind of a link to the Northeast Mississippi Electric Power Association, kind of showing that map. I know Matt tried to pull it up earlier, but especially seeing it on a bigger monitor, just to make it a little bit easier for y'all to see. But also reading it out, due to the storm that came through our service territory this evening, we have multiple trees down causing power outages. Crews are out working as quickly and safely as possible to get power restored. Thank you for your patience. So definitely want to keep emphasizing that. The more y'all can send in those requests and just alert them that y'all's power is out, the quicker they can figure out where it is and get to y'all and try to get that on to y'all or get it back on as soon as possible. So kind of wanted to highlight that. You can also show it was pretty much just off of Sardis Lake here behind me. And we were covering that just a second ago, which I can also pull up. Let's go. So many different power outages maps that I need to look at. Let's see if we can refresh and see if any of these have updated, because this was the one I was monitoring in Alcorn. Still kept at 628, so definitely good to see that it's not going up and has been contained and not really seeing any more of that as it continues to blow on through. And I think Matt brought up the good point as when y'all were reading the comments out and just reading that the rain was there and then it was quickly gone, just how fast this is moving on through. So when you kind of get caught in it, it'll be maybe a 15 to 20 minute kind of downpour. The wind will stick around just a little bit longer, especially ahead of it and technically behind it. But the heavy downpour, not really going to be that big of a threat, especially with just not how energetic this system is. Which, let's see if I can pull this back. I'm going to do that, and that should bring me back to the computer. And let me see if I can pull up links real quick, because I want to give y'all latest look on that. Let's see. Bear with me for a second as I do this behind the scenes. Pulling up radar. There we go. Now I got to switch it to do that over here. Let's see if this will do it. There we go. All right. Well, let's take a look at the Mississippi Live weather radar as that line continues to move on through North Mississippi. we want to just kind of see, you can see almost kind of regaining just a little bit more of strength. I noticed throughout the entire evening during the 6 and 10 o'clock, I've always mentioned this is a line of showers moving on through, not really a line of storms. Everything you can see within this area showing 0 total strikes. So not energetic by any means, but instead of lightning kind of striking these power poles, there we go, it's more of wind kind of damaging these, knocking those trees down. So still a threat nonetheless, even though it's not as energetic, but kind of getting a little bit more of its strength back. Let's put this in play for the past, let's go 30 minutes just with how we saw it die off. It was towards the start of that 10 o'clock, kind of building back again, kind of can't decide whether it wants to kind of keep that same intensity as it continues leaving Mississippi, getting ready for Alabama. I know people were asking because they had family over in that area. So that line's still making its way through and getting closer and closer to Alabama, but also moving pretty quick. I mean, this is the ground it covered within the past 30 minutes. So almost went from Highway 45 to the state line, just kind of emphasizing how fast this line is moving, which also means how breezy and gusty those winds are as well. We can also, let's take a look at these reports coming in. This is some non-thunderstorm wind damage due to it not really being energetic. Tree down across Highway 30, winds associated with the frontal passage moving on through. We can see that a lot of them coming out in Lafayette County just outside of Oxford. Another one, tree blocking a road, winds associated with frontal passage as this cold front moves on through. And then another one, power lines down with the frontal passage. So we definitely know kind of what's responsible for this as we continue. But you got any update on that power outage outside your house?
Well, so luckily not a power outage. Luckily the tree, and talking with my neighbor, I went down because there's one pretty good size one. I'm going to flip this around because it's flipped the other way by accident. Sorry about that. There's one pretty good sized tree that's not super healthy. I was concerned that that's what it was. That's not the case, thankfully. It says fairly small tree, pretty well under control. So about the time I got down, we texted back and forth. I guess I probably should have done that in the first place, but wanted to go help out. But they are under control. Luckily, a fairly small tree. Luckily, not a lot of major issues associated with that, Caleb. So while I was in there, anything new coming in on the chat?
I wasn't able to read chat, but I did just pull this up and refresh. It looks like we're starting to get some power outages in Lee County as that line kind of just moved on through. So it looks like those are starting to come in just a little bit. Right now, customers out, I mean, they're tracking 12,000, almost 13,000 people, only 511. But still definitely significant into the evening. So definitely want to talk about that. And I'll work on pulling that up to track those out in just a second. But wanted to mention that Lee County also having some reports come in as well.
Okay, so is that one you have? I see Tippah County behind you. Is that one you also have on the monitor there?
Let's see. Lee County, it's served by, let's see, the Tom Bigby.
I can pull that up. Probably.
I can pull it up
in
just a second.
Ahead. Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll pull up the generalized maps, and then we'll come to you for that in a moment. So I'll look for that to be ready here in a second. Current time is 10:42. No severe weather officially out there, though some sporadic wind gusts with some thunderstorms that we do have. The yellow reports of some wind damage that we have had from time to time. And we do expect additional reports of that possible. Tree down along Seal Bend in Pontotoc there. Report of a tree down Seal Bend in Pontotoc. I'll see if I can get that on the emergency managers there. So tree... while I'm typing that in and getting that for the National Weather Service, I'm going to bring Caleb back on here for a second so he can talk about some of those power outages in Lee County.
Yeah, here we go. This is the Tom Bigby Electric Power Association map, and I'll also move it over so you'll kind of see the significance of what I'm talking about. Definitely a significant amount of customers affected within this red area. That's 200 to 299 customers affected. This is just west of Highway 45 going into Lee County and affecting those pretty much just outside of Shannon and in between Shannon and Verona. So definitely significant power outages out there. And then you can kind of see another kind of neighborhoods or areas that are experiencing this. The kind of teal color showing 10 to 49 people experiencing these as well. This is just off of 45 towards the east off of Road 814 moving through Lee County. We can also look at the one out here, definitely off of the highway, but Road 814 still. We can even zoom in just a little bit, talk about what those are. It'll be a lot zoomed in on y'all's screen, but County Road 870, Woodman of the World Lake Lake Dam, and then Road 878, County Road 1311, and Road 1233. So there are some more outages coming in Lee County. We can even zoom out just a little bit more, focus on some of these up here in the north. This is another kind of substantial amount, 50 to 99 people affected out here in Chesterville. So still outside of the Tupelo area, but also kind of significant to see that more outages are being reported out there in Lee County. Let's see what else we have, which I'll even click on this, see if it'll pull it up. Okay, yeah, so it's just letting me know that. Okay, and then here's another one just outside of the Tupelo Regional Airport. Some more neighborhoods kind of getting affected with those power outages just off of the Natchez Trace Parkway. So that line that we were just talking about, kind of moving through Lee County towards the start of that 10 o'clock broadcast, already kind of moving on through. We were just showing where it was currently, but showing that with how windy these conditions are, definitely could pack a punch with knocking a few unlucky weak trees down and knocking those unlucky power lines as well. But the good news is y'all are doing well kind of reporting these, and that they are alert about them and trying to get out there and bring them back online. Here's another, I'll even zoom in on this. Sorry, this mouse not really working with me. Just off the Natchez Trace Parkway, right on the border of Lee County. So almost going into, I believe, there we go. Yeah, Itawamba. You can even see some areas in Itawamba seeing those power outages as well, as that line's pretty much over it right now.
Absolutely. Kind of going through Fulton pretty much as we speak in the last few minutes here. So yeah, just kind of really kicking through there. Appreciate that, Caleb. Keeping on top of things. Again, tree reported down across Seal Bend in Pontotoc. Viewer report of that just a few minutes ago. Appreciate all of you for sharing your reports with us here. Those are the kind of things, if there are trees reported down, things like that, let us know. We will pass that information along to the Weather Service. Now, it's one of those things like, oh, if it's windy here, I appreciate those reports as well. But obviously, if there's some kind of comparison, let us know there on that. I'm trying to see. There we are. And again, the one we had up here on the Beach Springs Road across the driveway. So just largely windy for a lot of spots there. And we should just emphasize that most of these wind gusts are below severe limits, despite the fact we've had sporadic damage, which sometimes happens in this case. I go back to the wind gusts here, leave it on kind of the current time frame on that. You can see where we have, again, some of those reddish sort of orange colors. Again, this is, I think, a little delayed on here. While it shows that's where the strongest winds are now, I think that's delayed from where we would have it. I'd probably have it a little farther east. Another way to show that would probably be looking at the wind mode on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. Yeah, that does a better job of showing kind of the leading edge of those wind gusts, which are, again, right here where you kind of see the leading edge of that green. So already kind of through the Fulton area, an example kind of what it looks like outside. Fulton would be a good way to kind of look at that there. Hold on, is this in play mode? Oh, we need to go in analysis mode. That explains a couple things there. So give me a moment to bring this back into analysis mode, and then let's bring this back over to the closest radar out of Monroe County. There we go. Okay. And so, listen, even when you're kind of looking at what we call the radar relative winds here, this is not going to show up super strong. I think it's underdone a little bit. But the general consensus is somewhere around 30 mile per hour winds. That's below severe limits. When we start talking about wind gusts in excess of 58, that's what would qualify as severe. But we just haven't had a lot of that kind of wind lately. So because of that, some trees that have died over the course of this year or just got weaker and rotted more over the course of this year, largely the ones kind of being pushed over and causing some issues there. See the camera certainly bouncing it around there in the Fulton area. It shows 24 mile per hour winds out of the northwest. That current wind speed, obviously some gusts a little stronger than that. Smithville kind of on the leading edge of this as well. Our camera down in Smithville, kind of looking out at this time. Doesn't look like it's hit that reporting station there. And I say that Smithville's actually just a little ahead of it. I'll step kind of this side here for a moment. You can kind of see there the leading edge of that. So Smithville's just kind of a little ahead of that. So you have to get into the stronger winds there. So we could probably compare that to Tupelo, and then we'll bring it back to the radar here for a moment. Our camera down in the south side of Tupelo, up a little higher, has been bouncing somewhat. Again, those northwest winds, you can see still fairly strong on that one as well. Give me a moment to get one of my TVs here behaving correctly. There we go. Now I can see myself over there. Yeah, but power, I mean, looks like for the most part, obviously visible on that camera there. And again, appreciate the folks at Mitchell Cunningham Bowling for giving us these live views, and the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, kind of a combination of those two places. We've had some of those power outages there in Pontotoc. I'm interested to see if that camera there still is behaving pretty well. And as we look at that, I'm going to bring it back to a 2-box here with our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut, here for a second. Looking at some of those power outages in and around the Pontotoc County area, not a whole lot showing up at this point. I show only 29 customers as of kind of one of the latest updates there, but there's a bunch of different power cooperatives that kind of cover that area. So I'm going to look at the Northeast coverage map. If you would look at maybe Tom Digby and some of the other ones there on it, but maybe between each of us, we can get an idea. It looks like most of it's kind of on the northwest side of town, based on at least my shot there. Caleb, what are you seeing?
Yeah, right now, most of it's Northeast. Yeah, Northeast Mississippi EPA has most of the carriers with the power outage. Tom Bigby only on this website has just one without power. So most of that's covered by Northeast Mississippi out there in Pontotoc. Right now it's coming in around 33 customers out within the county.
Okay. What else were you looking at? You had something up a second ago before I took you on a tangent.
I was just kind of organizing and just seeing what county's still being affected the most. And that's still TIPA right now coming in at just over 1,000. So y'all definitely have the most customers without power, and that's with the TIPA EPA, and still trying to update this and get that out. It's showing that 1,074 of y'all are affected out there in TIPA County, which I'll move it over just so y'all can see. Not really giving specific areas, but showing that they are aware of those out within TIPA. And then I think the next biggest amount of customers affected, it's only 17 out there in Alcorn County. So good news that it's not as widespread as it continues kind of moving on through Northeast Mississippi, kind of moving towards Alabama, but still TIPA having the most power outages at this moment.
You know, some folks were asking a moment ago there, you know, like, how often do we do this? Now, you were on at 10 o'clock tonight. We do 6 and 10 every single night of the week. We do on Monday through Friday, 6:37, 7:30 a.m. And then we also do 5, 6, and 10. So, I mean, we add a 5 o'clock to that. So if you don't know where we've been, if you're asking that question, the iOS app you see below me there, the Android app, and we also have one for all those folks that have Roku. You just have to search for Mississippi Live. Do not put the word weather on Roku. It will not find it. Don't know why. It's weird. Roku
too long to realize that.
Yeah, I mean, so it's one of those, why can't I find it? Just search for just Mississippi Live. And by the way, for the Fire Stick folks out there, I think there might be hope. I was talking to one of my guys that's been helping me do some of the things behind the scenes. I think we're going to get a Fire Stick app going here pretty soon. We've been hoping for that for a while. I think we'll finally get it for those folks that still have that there, and appreciate that. Appreciate you, of course, Caleb, as we're watching things here. Current time is 10:52. I think we might end up shutting this down around 11 o'clock as opposed to just continuing, because ultimately one thing we just want to make the mention here, this is not a severe weather situation, despite the fact that we have had some sporadic wind damage related to what's going on out there at this time. Because we come back here to Mississippi Live Weather Radar and its latest scans out of the Columbus Air Force Base area there, and we'll kind of bring it in. I think we'll be on the wind here initially. These wind gusts are below severe limits. One way you can tell that, look at the top here. You see how that color changes, where it goes kind of bluish versus the green. Anytime you're starting to get into the kind of those bluish colors, that's when we're at severe and damaging winds on the inbound winds. On the winds going toward the radar, which would be the reds there, it'd be any time we have though kind of kicking over that orangish yellow, kicks from the red to the orangish yellow. So we have that distinct cutoff there. So even if I'm not talking about it, we can quickly see, oh, that is potentially a severe wind gust. And so thankfully that is not the case with anything that we see out there at this point in time, or going to see as we go into the evening here. So again, this is non-severe thunderstorms, and honestly, this is non-thunderstorms, if we're being completely clear here, because you can see I'll move to this side, no lightning strikes showing up with this entire line at this point. So let's get a movement on it and get you some tracks ahead here for a moment. And I'm going to have to do my old school way of doing this, which my monitor is way forward here at the house. So I apologize. That is a 3-hour loop. Let's change that to a 1-hour loop so we can nail that down a little better. Okay, and now let's do distance from there to there. So about 38 miles over the last hour. So let's get you a storm track on this to kind of compensate for that 38 miles over the last hour. Oops, I guess we need to probably actually get it to current time first. That would be a more helpful track, wouldn't it? And we will take some time to kind of cycle through all of these because there's going to be a lot of city names that show up on this. So let's see, let's say 38 miles per hour. Okay, so, and this is the arrival time of the strong winds for you. And clearly we're going to have quite a few of those over the next little bit here. So by Y, as you can see now, a lot of folks there in the now term. Let's do some larger cities, and we'll kind of bring it in a little closer on some smaller ones as well. Mathiston, we show about 10:58, so in the next couple minutes. This is set to show lots and lots of smaller cities as well. So let's go and bring it back to two slightly larger cities, and we're going to extend this out, let's say 70 miles. That gets us most of the way through the remainder of the area there. So as you can see, Smithville, we're looking at for you about 10:59. So that'll be when we can check that camera here in a second. Kosciuszko, 10:59. French Camp, 11:02. Amory, 11:02. Again, this is going to cause some spotty power outages. That's what it's done. Bring down a few isolated trees. That's what it's done. But we do not expect this to be widespread damaging winds or anything along those lines, because thankfully this is not strong enough for that. In saying that, again, we have had, again, those sporadic reports of wind damage. I'm coming up here to our chat back and forth. Winds up there in Algoma, a lot of other places, obviously. Power outages remain some of the biggest issues. Appreciate everyone for tuning in here, watching Boonville. It's cold and it's broken. We're back to cold, that's for sure. Trash can, it's in the yard. Now that I believe there, real quick. Again, I'm going back through our chats here on Facebook and YouTube. We have kind of a combined chat where we can look at all those different things, power flickering in some spots. But it looks like primarily power issues. I have not seen a whole lot of other wind damage reports. And, you know, I'll bring our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut, who's down in the broadcast facility this evening. What are you seeing there as of now, 10:57?
Well, I'm pretty impressed right now with the power outages, especially as that line's kind of just now leaving northeast Mississippi, not really affecting those out there in Itawamba and even Tishomingo. I mean, very minimal, still 24 out there in Itawamba, 78 in Tishomingo. I think Prentice had it the best, 0 customers out right now. Tipa is still being affected the most with around 1,000 customers, 1,072 is what it's coming in right now. And then Calhoun County, excuse me, started coming in with some outages as well, around 171. But especially as we keep tracking that line and it's kind of now more prominent in western Alabama, I'm impressed with the power outages and lack thereof along the state line as it kind of just moved on through.
Well, and I would say it's still kind of early on some of those. Mm-hmm. And the other thing to be careful of is in some cases, so there tends to be a lag on that poweroutage.us versus the reality. So I'm going to pull up, I'm curious to see the outage map from, like for example here, and I think I'll have to bring it back to me real quick. And this is just, one of the things, there's a couple reasons, by the way, we're doing what we're doing right now, obviously to keep people informed and ahead of, what's going on. But another part of this is just kind of training, with Caleb and myself as to the tools that we have so that when we have bad weather, we know. But, you can see the outage is still pretty limited, maybe a few more than what was indicated there on poweroutage.us, but still pretty sporadic, there in and around the Itawamba County area. That bigger outage, you can see about 287, assuming I get out of the way of it, about 287 outages there on the southwest side of Tupelo. So I'm going to pull up our camera, which I believe is already pointed that direction here. This with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. Bring that back on full screen there. And again, appreciate Mitchell Cunningham and Bowling. Yeah, we're looking that direction. Well, of course there's no power that way. Look, right there. That's where we'd expect to see it, right? We don't see anything. So that's our power outage situation showing up there. So yeah, we can see the power outage still at this point. Appreciate Tom Bigby Electric Power Association as they go to put the power back on. As of the latest update, wind speeds down somewhat more up at Tupelo Regional Airport, still showing about 20 miles per hour on that northwest wind at this time, and that temperature dropping pretty readily down to 55. Obviously, the near record warmth we've had the last few days is in the rear view mirror. And so as this line continues to move eastward, it continues to bring with it more active weather and gusty winds. I'm going to see, I don't know if this is going to let me, this is something to try. I don't think it lets me adjust the positioning of my, it does tick down the times on it, but it doesn't allow me to reposition the track. So let's go ahead and take this forward here, and let's pick it up, say 11:48. That'd be about an hour from now. So let's go Gordo, make Gordo our first city on the list. Obviously the list, this is some of them that didn't make the first round there, and you can see just the far eastern extent of that. Gordo close to about 12:49. And I do appreciate Mama Justice. We have not done the official announcement, the official reveal, but Mama Justice and the folk there at the MW Law Firm are sponsoring our Mississippi Live Doppler radar, Mama Justice Doppler radar. We'll be talking a lot more about that coming up here in the near future, but appreciate them for stepping up to sponsor us here on Mississippi Live Weather to continue to kind of bring you the product and hopefully the coverage that you deserve as the more active season eventually kind of moves through the area. I see Caleb kind of panning around there back in the studio, looking at some of these power outages. Again, for our northeast portion of the state in better case, but obviously Tippah County has quite a few still, right?
Yeah, Tippah County still has a few. I wanted to check to see if they've gone up. Luckily, no much more customers have been affected, still keeping it around 1,074. It may have been 1,073, so maybe just one more got added. But Tippah County is definitely the one that has been hit the hardest as we continue into the evening. And then the only other county that I've noticed kind of like another significant power outage was down there just south of Corinth in Alcorn County, still 628 customers affected. So good news is those numbers aren't going up. I mean, you just saw it refresh right there, refreshes every minute. And that number has not gone up within the past 20 minutes or so whenever I pulled this up. So that is definitely the good news. And they've kind of figured out where the area they need to pay attention to is. And the good thing is we're not seeing those numbers continue to increase.
Absolutely. Appreciate that. Caleb Edelblut back in the studio here. I'm looking through your replies here, going back and forth. Power outage in Chesterville and Tupelo. A few blips of the power there. Lake Itawamba near Fulton. Appreciate Danny with that report. Some other folks there obviously talking about it. It almost sounded like a tornado. That I will say it was noisy when it came through the trees. Maybe it's just been we haven't had a whole lot of those recently. But appreciate Wanda for that report there. Just some limbs blown down, one in the carport close to the vehicle, but it sounds like it didn't hit it, thankfully, there. And the swings bouncing around quite a bit, some other spots. Power back on in Verona from some folks, so nice to hear that. And someone mentioned prayers for the Tom Bigby guys. We appreciate the guys and gals that go out to get the power restored. I'm not going to say we're soft, but we don't do well with the power being out very long. And so we're thankful for those folks that get it back up and going in a hurry there. Speaking to that, I do see kind of on that map behind the screen some of those outage areas that our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut is looking at. Caleb, what are you seeing as of now, 11:03?
Yes, I wanted to check the Natchez Trace EPA, and you can see kind of some significant outages just outside of Vardaman, around 100 to almost 200 customers affected within this area. This is just off of Highway 8 going through Vardaman and a little bit just northeast of Derma and Calhoun City. So there's another area kind of getting affected. I'm trying to see if I can move this down just a little bit. There's another significant area within Calhoun County and into Chickasaw as well, just east of Mississippi 341. So seeing those customers affected, I just saw that on that energy map for Mississippi, that Calhoun County started to get some power outages. So kind of wanted to see where those were, and they're most prominent within those areas that I kind of wanted to just mention really quick.
Absolutely. Our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut. I'm getting a text message from someone, who's, I have a soft spot for, who's very sensitive to tornadoes, was asking, are we dealing with tornadoes out of this? Let's just be crystal clear. No tornadoes out of this tonight, and nothing along those lines that we're concerned with, thankfully. This is just some gusty wind, but honestly, this isn't really any lightning even showing up with that, as you can see in those lightning strikes there. So all in all, this is noisy. This is more bark than bite, is one of the things I like to sometimes say related to this on Mama Justice Doppler radar. This front, as it's kind of coming through, this is a cold front, and as this front is pushing through, it's going to have a pretty good gust of wind. Those winds do calm down after a few minutes, but you will probably in some cases end up losing power. Certainly that's been the case out there for a few folks tonight, and we expect that to again continue as this works its way from Aberdeen back out there toward locations around Clay County, Attala County, and then obviously Choctaw County to the east. So don't be shocked again. I heard there was something metal that rattled around outside my house, but it looked like all the grills are still vertical, so that's usually a good sign in this situation. Kind of the wider shot on our power outage map here that really has been the story that we've been talking about the power outages, at least in some form or fashion. Looks like Prentiss County is the exception to that rule there, not really showing very many, but we don't have a ton of customers tracked. It looks like Tishmingo, Tombigbee, and Prentiss EPA is all showing no power outages there at this time, so very fortunate. And most of these are pretty limited. As you can see, in order to get up to 10% of a county, you'd have to be in the greens. We don't have any counties in the greens. So where we've had some of those power outages, they've been pretty limited there. I'm going to check a couple of these cameras back out in the Delta as well. We do have a number of those that we are fortunately able to monitor there. And I'll check some of those here in just a moment. Let's see if we pop that up. There we go. Kind of out the Shelby there. Just kind of see. Actually, I might have been south of that. Yeah, there we are, right in Shelby. So it doesn't look like the reporting station there is reporting, but the camera's still on and still kind of jostling back and forth just a little bit there. Appreciate, again, the North Mississippi Storm Chasers for providing these views out all across the region. Clarksdale, 53 the temperature, not bouncing this one around very much as well. Those winds calming down from when that front came through, only 10 miles per hour. So it does take some time for that to happen, but that front should be pretty much coming through the Smithville area pretty much now. You can see not a ton of rainfall with that, but obviously the drops there, the camera moving a little bit, those winds, as of the latest update, 13 miles per hour with that gusting in. And if I step out of the way for a moment, you can see the radar. We have that inset here in the corner, and it does show, again, that line through the Smithville area now as of kind of the latest scans. So you're really kind of getting the brunt of whatever this is going to produce at this point in time. But again, I think one of the big headlines, want to make sure we're crystal clear on this, there is no tornado threat. Okay? Power off there on Lake Monroe and Coon Tail Road there area. Power out near Chesterville. See Erica mentioning that. Caitlin, of course, with the Coon Tail Road one. So in good shape. But I'll address Carly and her question within the last probably 30 seconds or so. Is there bad weather anywhere? No, this is just wind. So luckily, it's just some sporadic power outages. For that reason, I think we'll probably end up shutting down our live stream here in a minute. Main reason is that sometimes when we have this live stream going, there's this implication that it's really bad. That's not the case. This is just, there are going to be some power outages, things like that. But yeah, this is, at this point here, just sporadic power outages. Same shot I think we could probably get with that front coming through almost the exact same time there in the Amory area. Kind of right beneath it. Again, gusty winds as we're zoomed in a little bit with our North Mississippi Storm Chasers camera there as well. We're waiting for that to update. That is the most recent image, but I would not call that a live image. Well, we'll see here if that one decides to go. That could be one of those locations where we have a power outage. I'll go down to Aberdeen here for a moment. We should still be ahead of it, so still should have no power outage issues there in the Aberdeen area. There we go. I say that, we're probably right at that front moving through at this moment. See, I get out of the way. Yeah, it's pretty much right there, kind of coming in at this time. So some gusty winds with that as well. Current time is 10:09, getting close to 10:10 here. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut as we are tracking some showers and thunderstorms. And I think the big headline, Caleb, no severe weather. That's not to say it's not impactful, because as Teresa just said a moment ago on YouTube, very gusty winds. In Smithville, wind is terrifying sounding outside. There's a difference between the bark of a dog and a dog that bites, right? I'm one of my good friends up in Kansas from college. We saw him when I was up there for Christmas, and you can see that camera really moving behind me here. They have a dog named Moose. Moose is huge, and he's got this deep, deep bark. And if you didn't know any better, you'd be really scared of him, but he doesn't bite. And this is kind of the case with most of these storms. It is windy enough, we're causing some power outages. We're losing an occasional tree here or there, a few limbs, but it's more bark than bite, right?
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I even just got an alert from our Mississippi Live weather app to let me know that rain was approaching Starkville. And I mean, I even just checked the power outage map, and you can already see some outages coming in Webster County as that line pretty much just went through and is getting closer now towards Oktibbeha and the Golden Triangle region. So definitely curious to see those. But still, just to keep emphasizing, not severe by any means, just a very windy night ahead of us, and just kind of those unlucky power lines and trees just trying to stir up some chaos, but definitely glad to see that this is more of a bark system moving through instead of a bite. So definitely we'll check out those Webster County outages. It's around 150 out at this moment with the Natchez Trace, which I think I have pulled up right here, which, yeah, we can look at that. Kind of moving on through, and I bet you that's it right there. Just off of, let's see where this is. Yep, just the Natchez Trace Parkway off of Mississippi 15, just west of it. So starting to see some power outages come in Webster as that line gets closer and closer towards Starkville area, which the app just gave me an alert that rain is approaching as that line continues kind of moving on through and exiting Mississippi tonight.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that the folks there. I'm going to bring up. Oh man, hold on. Am I going to get up before it comes back? Because this is going to change. Because I watched this lock up there on its own. I wonder if that's our single power flash. So anyway, it got bright there, and then the image stopped updating. So probably some kind of power outage, some kind of arc there as well. It's high enough up, though. It looks like it emanates from up there, right? So probably some power outage issues come with that one. Hopefully it's not a direct lightning strike. Hopefully it's just something the short term, but that's going to happen to these cameras from time to time, and appreciate the North Mississippi Storm Chasers for kind of partnering with us here on Mississippi Live Weather to be able to bring those cameras to you. So while we don't show a lot on the power outage map there in Monroe County, it looks like we'll probably be seeing a few more of those added in here pretty quickly. Pretty solid line here, but again, no lightning strikes as of at least the most recent update there. That direction, right there. Boy, I might have to decide whether or not I want to keep those lightning strikes above my head. I think long term I might have to move those because I can't ever. Maybe I'll just, there we go. Okay, I'll learn. Just point with the right hand. Oh, well, either way, it is gusty wind. And you can actually kind of see sometimes if you look closely here, the banding sort of showing up in the wind. That does sometimes indicate that maybe it's a little windier than what we're getting here, gravity waves, something along those. But usually you'd have gravity waves that would be along the front like this. So it's interesting that you do have the ripples kind of up across there as well. Hold on. Let's look at this a little wider. No tornadoes out of this. Let's be crystal clear. But it is interesting that you can see, I'm going to bring Caleb in here because this is a fun, interesting teaching moment. So what I find interesting about this is you see like that there's like some kind of cross banding with something that's translating south through this. Do you see that?
Yeah. I was kind of curious about that.
Interesting. So that's, again, something that because the radar site's right there, we're catching. It might be going on the entire way, but that's probably giving us like a localized enhancement beyond necessarily just what the wind is. I should have put on the real microphone. Apologize. There we go. Sorry. And I don't know if that sounds awful when I'm doing that in your ear. You let me know, Caleb, if that's like scratchy.
No, so far so good.
Yeah. So that might be enhancing that wind a little bit more. So yeah, so that's what's come through Amory. It's what's gone through Smithville. It's going through Aberdeen. And so West Point, you're kind of next on this. How much longer do we have until kind of this next band of wind makes it into West Point or Starkville. You said rain approaching the area, and we mentioned that moving about 36, 37 miles per hour. So at longest, where we are, let's stop that. And see 8 at 10 there. We have a camera there at 11:22. Current time is 11:14. Let's go ahead and shrink the city size down on this just a little bit. Let's go back to size 2. So West Point, we show 11:28. Starkville, 11:31. Artesia at around 11:46 and 11:52 there, Columbus. I guess I should have made it full screen. We're going to do that. You were looking at Webster County, some of those other power outages. Transformer blew in Aberdeen is what someone said. Aberdeen camera is back according to the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. So that's a good sign. Let's go check that and see it. But what else are you seeing as of about 11:15?
Good news is not a whole lot. I mean, this app or map not really updating as frequently, which this is kind of just the overall just statewide power outages. But even just going through all my tabs and refreshing them, not really seeing those outages skyrocket. Webster, I think the last time we talked about it is around 120-ish customers out, now around 150. So unless I'm imagining things, I'm pretty sure that number went up just a little bit. So still kind of keeping an eye on that, especially as that line just kind of went through and those outages start coming in more.
Okay. So meteorologist Caleb Edelblut, we're looking at Maben here, just behind the line. Not a great view of what's going on, kind of dark and not bouncing around a ton. 8 to 10 is where it's kind of, moving through as we speak. I'm working my way over to get a shot from West Point. I think West Point has a pretty spectacular shot of this, actually, because I can still see the moon. We actually have some structure. Just the angle on this here, you can see there's that line. And I might have to pan the camera just a little bit down. Give me a moment to find that in whichever list here. Caleb and Gabe. Do we not have this open on this? Might have to open it up on one of my computers here. Back at the house. So give me a moment to pull up my camera control. Assuming I can ever find where my mouse is here. I gotta sign in. I think it's worth us taking a moment to do that. There we go. Somebody else getting it for me. I appreciate them for doing that. But it's kind of a cool shot where you could see the moon a second ago. But again, this is the kind of the line of showers and storms that's kind of working its way in from the north and west. We're kind of, I believe, probably looking more of a westerly direction. I don't have the degrees on that part there. Let's see. I think West Point's this next page. Yeah, it is. Yeah, so we're looking kind of west-northwest out of that. So I'm going to take it back up just a little bit. I think by panning it down too much, I lose that cool shot of the moon up there. So unfortunately, it's just going to kind of lose a little bit behind the bar. But yeah, that's just kind of a really cool shot ahead of that there, showing, again, the kind of a concentrated batch of showers. You've seen 0 lightning strikes out of this. So there's no severe weather, but it is gusty wind as it moves in. I see Cameron mentioning wind and rain and Maben and Phoebe at this instant. That is this shower there that's kind of moving in. And so eventually we'll probably see that tower go away. I don't know that we're going to stay on that long enough to see that tower go away, but as the rain kind of moves in, it'll become more difficult to see that with the visibility changing on that. I'm going to tweak the focus a little bit. See if perhaps that we can clean that up a little bit. Yep, went way past it. There we go. That gives us a better shot there. So yeah, there's some low-hanging stuff. You're going to see, again, some low-hanging stuff back there on the backside, but this is not going to be something that gets overly strong or is producing severe weather. It's just going to cause these sporadic power outages, primarily what we have been seeing at this point here. Current time is 11:18 p.m. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. You're looking at one of the cameras from the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. Another one of those, again, coming down the backside. This kind of give you some perspective both ahead of the storm and then back behind it, coming from the Tupelo area where we've been watching some power outages. And in particular, I've been watching this area right here, Because when we were looking at this a minute ago, there were no lights right there. So that makes me think it's possible we've started to see some of those power outages become fixed by the folks. This would be Tom Bigby Electric Power Association. And saying that, I'm still showing a decent number of outages over the last update here. This is kind of the zone where we've been watching it. So our camera location right about there. Hold on, is that Gloucester? 145, right about there. So we'd be looking back into this. So perhaps our numbers come down a little bit because it was sitting 287. Maybe it just looked like there was less power outages than what we had a minute ago there, at least on that. So interesting. We'll bring in Caleb here for a moment. Again, kind of monitoring things. Your map's not increasing a whole lot, is it?
No, actually, I wanted to share the update that it's decreasing. We were talking about Tippah County being the county that had the most power outages at the current moment back then, with over 1,000 customers being affected. Now, clicking on it, only 2 with the Tippah Electrical Power Association. And I even went and found this when I was kind of going through all the tabs and refreshing them. This is where we had that big red dot right in Tippah County, just showing that over 1,000 customers were affected. Now, with the latest updated look with Tippah, there are 2 customers affected. 3 out there in Hardeman, 1 in Benton, and then 0 in Alcorn and Union. So definitely some good updates, good news with the Tippah EPA, and looks like they got that power back on, and that was pretty much our most impacted county when we were kind of glancing through all these tabs. So definitely good to see that and kind of see those power outages go down instead of continue to climb up.
Absolutely. And part of this extended coverage started in the Oxford area a little bit ago. You're looking out of our camera with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers there in the Oxford area, not bouncing as much. Does look like the reporting station there has decided to take the rest of the evening off. Maybe that's just one of those sporadic power outages that they have had there. Nothing in the Lafayette County area at this point, but obviously we did have some showers and some gusty winds when this came through. You see these yellow dots that kind of pop on the screen there as that wall of wind originally arrived. You can watch the green move in. This is looking at wind moving toward the radar, and that is that gusty wind as that kind of slipped through. Those yellow dots that you see there are primarily straight line, what we call straight line wind damage, and reports again of some trees and power lines down there on the southwest side of Oxford at about 9:24. Tree blocking the road at 9:26 there, kind of on the northeast of Oxford, just north of Highway 30, and then another area along Highway 30 where we had a tree that was blocking the road. Our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut, will get the picture there from the Oxford PD up here in a second to show you some of the damage that we did have reported there, and that's kind of what got us kind of sticking on this a little bit longer to make sure that folks knew, hey, there's some sporadic wind damage possible with this line, especially because it's late at night and it's not like we're tossing anything else. So it's not a bad time for us to, address that. But when we look at Mississippi Live Weather Radar at this point here, looking at the precipitation mode, it's just lighter variety rainfall on the backside of this. And even where this line is kind of moving in, it's just moderate rainfall at most. But earlier on, obviously, things were a little bit stronger. Caleb has more on that.
Yeah, I wanted to pull up this post. Again, there's that picture sent in by Gabe earlier, our meteorologist, sending that in, talking about the Oxford Police Department, still pulling that in, talking about those customers that were affected. But I know we started with Oxford, talking about that power outage occurring out there, but also another good update. We were just talking about Tippah. Now taking a look, I clicked the wrong one. There we go. Out here in Alcorn County, just south of Corinth and definitely just south of Searcy Town, 431 customers out right now, and that was decreasing. Around 200 people that are already coming back online. So good news out there in Alcorn County. And every update that I'm getting is that these power outages continue to decrease. So that is the good thing that we're seeing as we continue to see that line push further and further out. We're not really seeing that increase either.
Thankfully the case. But one spot we're going to watch it is Clay County down there. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lompong. Current time is 11:23 p.m. And I think at about 11:30 we'll probably end up shutting this down. There are going to be some sporadic power outages with this, but you saw how for a little bit it was out there in Aberdeen and then came back. We're looking here in West Point. I'm watching the camera there that is been kind of looking into these showers and storms as they kind of move in. As I pan the camera a little bit, we're looking back into this back in a kind of a northwesterly sort of direction, kind of west-northwest, as those showers and storms move in. That's kind of what we're looking at. So there's some low-hanging stuff associated with it, but no sorts of tornadoes, anything like that we're concerned with out of this. I'm going to see if I can tweak the focus here to get it focused a little more precisely. There we go. Man, that looks good when we miss the focus on it. God, those cameras look good. I got to remember I'm going to have this interface up. If you guys saw my behind the scenes, you would laugh about what I'm about to say, but I need about one more monitor here that I can just leave on cameras, but I got like 16 monitors, so anyway. But yeah, so there's going to be kind of a ragged sort of bottom on this as it comes through, but there's no sorts of tornadoes, nothing like that out of it. It is just wind. And honestly, most wind gusts are 35 miles per hour or less, and that's enough to knock down a few little tree branches. But typically when we're talking about severe thunderstorms, it's 58 miles per hour or greater. So this is well below that threshold there. But we're watching for you there in West Point as this line kind of moves in a little closer. So the lights kind of showing up there. Obviously, kind of the glow looking back toward the north at this time on what is, again, cloudy, breezy, and a fairly cool evening still taking shape out there. Bring it back here to Mississippi Live Weather Radar. And again, that is basically on the cusp of moving into the West Point area at this point in time. So our tower definitely has to be kind of on the southwest side of town. Yeah, hold on. I can look at that here for a moment. Yeah, it's kind of right about there where my pointer is. This is about where the tower is. So still kind of looking through. So that's why you had all those lights showing up as we're waiting for that to kind of move into West Point with some of those gustier winds. So it'll kind of run maybe a little bit even ahead of where the rainfall is at this time. Caleb has been watching, again, the power outages all evening long, even back to our 10 o'clock broadcast. Caleb, what do you got?
Well, I wanted to check Clay County, like you were mentioning earlier, as that line continues moving on through and especially approaching Golden Triangle region. And I just saw familiar region down there in Starkville getting circled. Wanted to see kind of what that was about, and it was very familiar out there in down South Montgomery. Starkville Country Club area. I have several friends out there, and I texted one of them just a second ago, texted my friend Grady and asked if they were experiencing any power outages, and he told me that there were a few power outages, but it was more of a four-county, the EPA issue instead of weather. So not really outages being affected by the weather per se, but still some occurring down there in Starkville. You can even see some just south of 82 out there in Mathiston, 42 around Church Road and Hill, and it looks like Reed Road. That's kind of a good amount right there out there and just outside of Mathiston, around 42, and then 19 out here in Old Trace Road off of McLean Road as well. So starting to see some pop up down there within the Golden Triangle region as that line's pretty much approaching and over y'all right about now. So interested to see if those kind of increase just a little bit more as that line moves on through, because like Matt said earlier, it's not going to be as instantaneous as a result that we can keep pretty much reloading and updating, but definitely curious to see if those can keep popping up. But already texted my friend Grady, told me that they're all good, more of a kind of EPA issue instead of a weather issue as that line passes on through. But still going to keep an eye on that, especially in the Golden Triangle region, as that's kind of blowing on through right now, getting closer and closer towards the Alabama state line. But pretty much the good news is most of these outages keep going down instead of up. That is what I want to keep emphasizing as much as possible with that line, especially getting closer and closer towards Alabama, not really affecting us as it continues to blow on through. So still definitely going to hear that wind and the gust outdoors. Could sound a lot scary, but it's all bark, no bite, like we were mentioning earlier. Definitely a good phrase to use from now on. So I'll definitely be adding that to the repertoire.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're going to be removing one of our cameras, at least for tonight, from the repertoire. I'll bring it up here. I think that our camera from Amory there with North Mississippi Storm Chasers officially down at this point as that kind of came through. Hopefully not a long-term issue there, but I mean, when you have gusty winds like this, you're going to have some power outages, and certainly that's probably been the case there, and appreciate them for again helping us here at Mississippi Live Weather. Aberdeen back from that at this point, and so that camera showing up again and kind of zoomed in, but a little bit of a bounce back and forth. Those winds remain fairly gusty at 59, the temperature there in the Aberdeen area. And then coming in there ahead of that, look at that. Okay, real quick. One time. So 70 in Caledonia, 59 in Aberdeen. And then let's go all the way back northwest there, just for the perspective point here for a moment. And again, the coldest is not through there, 48 in Crenshaw. So the cold air is coming in a big way, and that wind chill down to 43. So don't miss the fact that it is going to be really pretty windy as this kind of kicks through our region. So we bring back here to Mississippi Live Weather Radar, and we look at the wind gusts. This tends to be a little slow on this, but it is a sign that, as you can see behind this, there are plenty of gusty winds. And we're not alone, as there certainly has been a lot more of the wind damage category. That's what most of this orange is here, that wind damage category all the way up there back into the plains, some wind damage with this. So we have been fortunate that we have not been on the worst case scenario on how this has played out. But certainly some gusty winds will continue into this evening and tonight, sort of related to this. Current time is 10:30. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. I do think we're going to probably wrap things up here as far as our coverage is concerned tonight. I want to pop up something that we talk a lot about, this is kind of for the discernment factor on this. So lots of folks are saying, how bad is it? Is it bad enough we need to worry about it? All that kind of stuff, right? The way to always have that answer is with Weather Call. So Weather Call will let you know if this is bad enough. If there's a tornado, it will call you. It'll be my voice. It'll say, hey, this is a tornado. And you'll know, okay, I need to get to shelter. It'll call you back if it's been confirmed to be a tornado, not just a tornado warning. It'll call you if there's extreme and damaging winds. It can call you for severe thunderstorms, for major flash flooding. So it's kind of a good thing that has it all wrapped up. You might ask, why is a phone call necessary when you are watching on one of these? When we're carried primarily on one of these? And the answer is, a phone call cuts through the noise. You get a phone call, it stops the live stream that you're watching right now, and you're forced to answer it, right? It interrupts everything. You can miss alerts, but you can't miss a phone call. So, or you can, but it's just going to ring a bunch, and you're going to have to actively ignore the phone call. So that's why in 2025, going into 2026, phone calls matter. And that's why we talk about Weather Call, because it's a disruptor. It disrupts everything you're doing and lets you know, is it bad enough you need to be worried about it? So with that in mind, I would certainly say that I'd recommend that you download Weather Call. And if that's not the case, if that's just not something that I'm going to be able to convince you of, I get that. For some people, that's just not the way it works. But we want to make sure that we kind of build our armor one way or another. The folks at Code Red, I think, have things figured out, hopefully have things fixed. Certainly, that's been something that they have been trying to get done recently. There's an update this weekend. It seems like things are better with that. But you want to be thinking about more than one way to stay involved, to build that armor. So you want Weather Call, you want our app. I think it's hugely important, does a great job. You can see how to download that app here if you're watching us on the different social medias. But you want to make sure you layer up with multiple options, because as you know, the algorithm's going to algorithm. And if the algorithm says you don't need to watch us, you're not going to see it show up in the feed there. So liking, subscribing, sharing, all those things increase the odds that it'll show up on your feed. But the most reliable way is we send updates when there's significant, active, and severe and potentially damaging weather. And you can get those updates here in the Mississippi Live Weather app. I'm checking here on some of the behind the scenes stuff. Again, some of the trees reported down earlier. This from the North Mississippi Storm Chasers from the Sheriff's Office there in Lafayette County. Highway 30, Highway 6, County Road 202, County Road 321, County Road 103, and County Road 376. All those were in Lafayette County. And we'll do one more check here of some of the power outages in that situation. Caleb, I know what you had. What did you have up there a second ago?
That was the Oxford picture that got sent earlier at the start of this broadcast.
Can you zoom that in? Control and then move the mouse, the middle mouse there in. It should zoom that in.
Oh, that's the wrong way. I think this is max, because once I start zooming in more, it starts zooming out at 200%.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fun.
So apparently that'll be the closest we can get. But just kind of showing that a tree, I think actually not even the tree, that's just the power line that snapped. Just showing that it doesn't even take a tree falling on them for these outages to occur. So that was sent in by our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor. showing that Oxford Police Department was on top of this and getting those power outages back, which also want to show you, let me pull up the right one. Another big update out here in Alcorn County, no power outages or any active right now. So that was another huge area affected with 600 plus customers out of power. Just did an update on it a few minutes ago and it was down to 400 and now we are down to 0. So definitely good news to see as we continue wrapping this up and seeing that line move on through North Mississippi towards Alabama and just seeing those power outages continue to not be as impactful, and if they start impacting us, that they are getting fixed very quickly. This map becoming less and less colorful, which is a good thing. So that's the updates I have over here. Keep kind of flicking all the way through the tabs, and all of them continue to go down. Haven't really seen any counties continue to increase. I was keeping my eye on the Golden Triangle region, especially as that line, cold front continues to move on through, which I'll update it just one more time to make sure, but yep. I mean, still sticking the same. You can see that line just south of Starkville, but as I mentioned earlier, that was more of their EPA issue, not a weather issue. I think it's more of these numbers on the map kind of being affected, especially just west of West Point and west of Cedar Bluff. 14 people out there in between Cedar Bluff and FIBA, and also 42 still in Matheson. So we covered that just a second ago. That number has not increased either. We do have 2 just off of Pigeon Roost Road and LaGrange Road. That is new. We did not have that earlier, along with the 19 off of Old Trace Road in between Louis, East Pollard, and McLean Road. So definitely keeping an eye on those. But still, as I continue updating that, not really seeing more pop up, which is a good thing, especially as that cold front continues to move on out of our area.
Okay, and I'm going to give one more track on that. Caleb, thank you for your hard work tonight. Really appreciate it, and it turned into a kind of a longer evening. Caleb's going to be in helping me out most of this week as Gabe has gone on a much-needed vacation. So we're excited for him to hopefully get some rest for a little while. So Caleb's going to be in helping me all week long, and appreciate Caleb for the early start that we're kind of getting to tag team some things tonight, and not expecting it to be a particularly active week, but as you heard from Caleb earlier on, more on that. Let's get a storm track on this line here. And I'm going to, if you give me a moment, I'm going to see if I can tweak the minimum ranking on these. There we go. Settings for places, storm and squall. There we go. And then we'll go in if we need to go smaller after the fact. Okay. So let's get you some times as we kind of track ahead. Hold on. I need to clear that. I was not precise enough with that. There we go. And so moving about 38 miles per hour or so. You can see the wind mode there, back to precipitation mode. And now let's extend that. You can see kind of the initial list of locations there, such as Caledonia, where we have a camera, which we will go to that real fast before it's a little too late on that. And we'll come back to the storm track here in a second. Here's back to that Caledonia camera while I'm getting all the stuff on the storm track figured out. And as we wait for that latest image to come in, yep, look at those. You can see the flag down there is certainly doing its thing. Let's get a shot of that while we're just practicing here for a moment. Stations, Caledonia. I want to see if we can zoom that in to that flag to get a good shot of just how strong those winds are, and you can even see like some changes in direction there. But yeah, certainly it is windy at this point in time there. So a sign that that's the reason this camera is definitely bouncing up and down. 64 degrees. Again, that was at 70 just a couple minutes ago on those northwest winds. So it is definitely pretty windy and expected to, from time to time, take a few of those tree limbs you can see there and snap a couple off. But most of those wind gusts, when you're looking at that, only typically in that about 35 mile per hour range. And typically when we're talking wind damage, we'd be thinking wind gusts closer to 58. So not quite to that threshold. You can see also this is a sign that the rainfall is kind of lagging behind this. If we're just now, still we're getting that wind, but we're not seeing as much precipitation at this point. We'll see if I can get this to, might not be able to get that to focus much more. We'll go back that direction. Oh, there's the raindrops on the lens. That's part of the reason I'm not getting to focus it, is because I got the raindrops on the lens. That would make more sense. Okay, we'll kind of leave it there. Okay, back over here, now that we've kind of got this, this line coming in. There we go. And let's take this out for about 60 miles. And that should, let's go 70 miles. That should take it the rest of the way out of the Mississippi Live viewing area, all the way through Aliceville at 1:04 a.m. And again, we're probably going to shut things down here in just a moment. Watching still for you in Columbus at 11:52. We're about, you know what, let's take it to midnight, Caleb. Let's get it through Columbus. That'll get us through Louisville there, just to make sure we don't have a whole lot of other sporadic power outages. I do want to check that 4-county map in particular. If you'll pull that one up, we'll take a look at that, because that's the one that'll be the sign if we need to kind of continue this. The 4 counties showing a bunch of power outages there. I mean, I see a few, but what's the total?
I mean, it really hasn't updated. Our biggest kind of blob of outages is still that 42 just south of Mathiston. But other than that, nothing's really changed. I'm trying to see if, I can't remember if that 15 was here just north of Sturgis. But that's still, that would have been a little bit ago if it was there, as that line's kind of still continued to move on through. But I'm not really seeing this update much. Also, only downside is I'm not seeing it go down either. So they're still definitely working on those power outages. But Starkville, West Point, not really seeing any, not in Columbus yet. But I also know that line is still continuing to push on through. But as of right now, not any more outages have been reported.
You know, and again, looking at kind of that total you were talking about a moment ago there, I'll pop that graphic up here for a moment. In fact, when this comes to me, though, it's going to probably change it. So I'm going to have to force it back over again. So, yeah, if I step to this side, you can see that the number is up, obviously, from where it was. So still kind of rising at this point. But we're talking a total of 122. So not an extreme number, but that's not to be shocking that, again, the number is going to keep going up as this line kind of moves into and through. So again, for folks that are ahead of this, Macon, we're looking 12:31 for you, Reform at about 12:38, but in the near term, Louisville at about 11:48, so within about the next 7 or 8 minutes or so. But this is not severe. This is not going to be super long lasting. Thankfully, as it kind of moves through. So that's why we're just kind of a little back and forth on this. I see another update from Caleb. Caleb, what do you got?
I was going to ask before we wrapped it up, in case we were, to check that Tupelo camera, just because I haven't seen these really change much, or at least gone down any. So I was curious to see if those outages are still effective and if we can see them on the Tupelo camera still.
Okay, let's take a look here real quick. So this is that Tupelo camera. And again, I might be misremembering, because that is a thing sometimes. I thought there were less lights here originally, and maybe I was wrong about that. Maybe I was looking a long distance away. We are up on a tower, and the way those are flashing, we're probably looking at some kind of communications tower. Who knows? With the angle there, it's not impossible. That's all the way down close to Houston. Or Troy, so that might be kind of what we're looking at there as well. So we might have just been obscured with some rainfall or something like that. There's not a lot of lights here in this zone right about there that I would expect to see more lights. But we're also out in the country, so concentration of people is a little bit less there. So to answer your question, inconclusive.
Inconclusive. Yep, no, that's definitely fair. I just wanted to check Lee County out, since that's pretty much the only county that has still been pretty impacted. As I keep kind of flipping through all the tabs, most of that blue fading on away, and even with some of them still showing some, I would go to those specific EPAs and they would show that it's actually at 0. So good news that they are continuing to decrease, but right now Lee County is still the most significant, but with 527 customers out with a total of 12,000 customers served. So definitely good news that it's very minimal. And I think we just saw that go down, unless I'm looking at different numbers. But around 527 out there in Lee, and then Webster County is the only other one, which I was able to pull up. There we go. I'm starting to remember where all my tabs are. Here we go out here, just checking out those power outages out in Calhoun, Webster, and Chickasaw, just still that kind of big area of power outages. Not really seeing it decrease, but we're also not really seeing any more color get added to this map in the outage area. So definitely a good sign to see as well, but hoping to see that those can continue to decrease as well as we continue into the evening. But the good news is y'all are on top of reporting this and getting these pretty much on the map so they know kind of where to go, and they're on top of fixing that. So definitely good news to see as that line continues moving on through and almost out of North Mississippi completely. So very, very good signs to see, as this was still an all bark, no bite situation, and just kind of more of those unlucky trees, unlucky power lines that they are continuing to work on. It's just Lee, still the most colorful map that we have right now, as they are still on top of it with the Tombigbee EPA, trying to get all those power outages situated. But that's the one I'm pretty much tracking closely right now. Everything else is looking pretty good as we continue getting closer and closer towards midnight, as that line is now getting closer and closer out of here. So definitely a good thing to see as it continues moving on out of our area.
Absolutely. Our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut, there again, tracking that. So we've been looking at this camera here in Tupelo. Let's go down into Columbus, one of the spots that we are watching. Different cameras there. These are going to be Mississippi Department of Transportation cameras. 66 ahead of this in Columbus as of the latest time period here. As of what, we're about 11:45, waiting for it to kind of hit Columbus, which we're within about the next 10, 12 minutes of that happening. I'm going to pull that list back up here for you real quick. So you can see Louisville, 11:48. So next couple minutes here. I show it right pretty much on the edge of Columbus at this point with some of those winds. That 11:52, we're wide enough here that I might be a little slow on that time. It should be hitting pretty much now at that camera location. So let's go ahead and we'll clear that off. I'm going to show you another thing here that we're looking at, and this is maybe one of the more important things to take forward, the wow factor on the temperature change. So yeah, we're colder now in a lot of cases than we were 24 hours ago. But I mean, can you really touch what we got back to the north and west here, right? 43 degrees colder in Fayetteville, Arkansas than yesterday at this time. So that's an idea that there's much, much colder air back just to the north and west behind this storm system moving into our area. I'm going to go wider here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. I'm going to bring this over to our temperature mode on that to give you kind of an idea, because if you're watching us, I think it's very clear you need to know that there's a big drop in temperature that's already kind of on the way in. You can see this is our cold front. And not just in name only. This one is legitimately colder behind it. Some examples there for a moment. If we show the latest time frame on that, we just kind of give you an idea what some of these colors are. I mean, you're up there single digits with that in Iowa, 20s in Missouri, even northwest Arkansas, low 20s for actual temperatures, 40s around Little Rock. And yeah, we're already back in the 40s for the northwest portion of the state. So much, much colder air on the way in with this. And when you check out that wind chill temperature, this is maybe the big deal, because I'm going to pull off all of those sort of reports there. We'll go wider, give you an idea. Don't have to go that far behind this to get very bitterly cold. So wind chills, negative 22 up there for the Dakotas, almost negative 30, negative teens, single digits. So this is the thing that will get you tomorrow. Wind chills will not be warm. Let's see if I can pull up. Give me a moment here. Chill. I'm going to try this one. I feel like this should work based on the date I made it. Why not? Whoa, pause that. There we are. Okay. So obviously you can kind of see the wall of wind chill moving in, and this is the issue going into tomorrow morning. We are teens and 20s for those wind chill temperatures to begin Monday. And if you're expecting a big improvement by noontime, it's 20s for wind chills. And by afternoon, it's 20s for wind chills. By tomorrow evening, winds should be calming down. It's still 20s and teens for wind chills. And by early Tuesday morning, it's single digits and teens for wind chills. So, much colder weather on the way in behind this. That largely summarizes what, among other things, Caleb was talking about at 10 o'clock, but that's kind of the big story there. And you could see even those wind chill temperatures by Tuesday are going to be fairly chilly as well. Even late Tuesday and probably early Wednesday. So I'm going to get back off of that graphic there for a moment. So Caleb, as I bring you back in here, again, watching those power outages there, anything increasing on the 4-county map?
Yeah, just a little bit. Actually, we have some outages reported in Columbus. So definitely something to continue looking at. 27, and you can kind of see that area within that red line of customers being reported out just out of Columbus Lake, just to the east of it, and then another band of 10 to the north. So starting to see those outages spread just a little bit in the Golden Triangle region. You can also see that big 51 up here as well. So a few more popping up as well as we continue further into the evening as that line moves on through.
Yeah, all of our cameras there in Columbus looking like they're bouncing a little bit. That one on 82 always does a great job of kind of capturing what's happening as these move in. It definitely is showing some movement. As you can see, kind of the sheets of wind there moving across the road. Again, here in the Room to Room Weather Center, one of the things that we are tracking, again, the strong gusty winds, sporadic power outages, the main impact that we're seeing from that. There is no tornado threat. No tornado threat out of this. Just spotty wind damage, a possibility. And again, this is kind of moving into and through the Columbus area at this point here. But it looks like largely most of those spots there in and around Columbus are not experiencing power outage situations at this time. The power outage situation is and has been one of the bigger weather stories today and tonight. As we put on those power outages, give you an idea, certainly where they've had more impactful weather up toward the plains, there are bigger issues, but you can still just, I mean, you can almost pick out on the map here where this front has kind of moved from northwest to southeast through. It's been not everybody. And again, we're not getting up here in the higher percentages at all, but they're somewhere in the 1 to 5% range. We've had some of those power outages. It does look like the most significant as far as percent monitored is concerned now showing up there in the Eupora area potentially. We're looking at about 6% of folks there out of power, 4% in Lee County. And just for an idea, you can see more limited numbers of other spots. Well, what does that translate into? About 500 folks there in Lee County, about 400 there in Webster County. We are still waiting on, again, this map updates more slowly than others, but some additional numbers probably increasing in and around the Columbus area. Okay, Caleb, unless you have something substantial here, I think because the numbers have not been super high recently, we're going to go and wrap this up. Anything else you want to add to this?
Nope. It looks like most of those outages continue to decrease. Webster still probably the most significant county with those outages, but still not increasing rapidly. So good thing to see that blue continue to fade off more and more with our power outage maps and just kind of checking those and see that it's even less on those specific EPAs for their websites.
Well, in Alcorn County, where we'd had some issues, I see Mary Ann in the chat right now mentioning that power's back on in Alcorn County. It's not on the map behind me here, so we are clearly seeing improvements for a lot of spots. So appreciate y'all for sticking with us here in this kind of extended edition of our 10 o'clock broadcast. You can watch us each day, Monday through Friday at 6:30, 7:30 a.m. Our meteorologist Maggie McCauley will be updating things starting at those times. Tomorrow morning here in the Room to Room Weather Center, live updates at those times. Then we're obviously recorded ones through the day. Then we're on 5, 6, and 10 p.m. You'll see Caleb and I tomorrow as we're looking toward that. But we appreciate you guys for kind of following us here in Mississippi Live Weather and for going through the motions with us as we continue to track active weather. I think we'll go ahead and send you back to the 24-hour channel. And then again, appreciate everybody for your support and your patience. And just thanks for being with us here on Mississippi Live Weather.
Give the gift of a delicious burger from Bulldog Burger, a soup and sandwich from Sweet Pepper's Deli, appetizers and cocktails from The Grill, or even a wood-fired steak from Harvey's. Choice is the perfect gift. An all-in-one gift card from Eat With Us.